great news. Great news. Joe Biden is back, and he's still yelling and muttering incomprehensible gibberish. It's true. Listen, this is him.
We are the greatest manufacturing county in the world, state in the world. In the world.
It really has no idea what he's trying to say there. Neither do the rest of us. And I don't know about you, but I really missed Joe Biden ever since he was shoved out of the candidacy for president. And also since he's been on that really long extended beach vacation, first in California, then on the beaches of Delaware.
We are the greatest manufacturing county in the world, state in the world. In the world.
What did he say? He's a city, county, state thing. I don't know. He's trying to. It's been a long time since Joe Biden's had to give a speech, since he's had to appear in public anywhere, and as a result, I believe that he's forgotten. Well, I mean, what little vocabulary he had left, he's now pretty much spent. Listen, we have so much to get into today. We have a lot to talk about. There was a lot going on over the weekend. First of all, there's things in Philly are just weird. Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, the entire state. I feel really bad for the people in Pennsylvania, and I'm going to be there next week, so maybe I'll tell them that. Because Pennsylvania is the crux of the election, because the state of Pennsylvania and the electoral votes that it carries are the winner-take-all state. Whoever wins Pennsylvania is going to win Pennsylvania Avenue. That's something I've said on this show repeatedly. That's something I will continue to say all the way up until Election Day. And as a result, Pennsylvania's getting the worst of it. They're getting the worst. If they've got more Kamala Harris and more Joe Biden and more shenanigans and more ridiculousness and more propaganda than any one state should have to put up with. And I apologize on behalf of the rest of the country that Pennsylvania has to deal with all that. But that's what happens when you're the deciding factor, when you're the key state to winning the election, to getting to that 270 votes necessary in the Electoral College to become the next president of the United States. When that's what happens, well, that's what happens. Pennsylvania just becomes a bizarre place to live for the next 60 days. And we'll get into all that. Kamala Harris's rally in just a minute. Also, the campaign, I don't know whose idea this was, but the Kamala Harris campaign has decided to pick a fight that they just can't win. They've decided to pick a fight that they just can't win, and it's over Arlington Cemetery and the Gold Star families and this wreath-laying ceremony that happened on the third anniversary of the Abbey Gate bombing, where 13 American servicemen and women were killed, dozens more wounded. The worst kind of wounds and life-altering injuries that they got when this ISIS-K bomber exploded himself, along with a bunch of other Afghans and other people at the Abbey Gate during the really bad withdrawal from Afghanistan. I mean, really, just the unforgivably bad withdrawal of American troops and Americans from Afghanistan 3 years ago today. She's picking a fight with Donald Trump. She's going to lose. We'll get to that story here in just a minute. But first, I wanted to thank a lot of people because we've been easing back into this show. Today we are back the whole hog. We're back with a vengeance, and we are going to be ramping up our efforts. We are going to be everywhere all the time. You're going to get sick and tired of seeing us. We don't care, because it's time for us to save the republic. It's crunch time. It's like 60 days. And I'm headed to Philadelphia. I'm headed to Washington, D.C. I'm headed to a couple of other events. We're going to be traveling. We're going to be broadcasting. We're going to be posting on TikTok, on X. We're going to be on Facebook constantly, whether they want us there or not. YouTube, our YouTube channel, by the way, is growing by leaps and bounds. And I appreciate everybody who watches us on YouTube every day. Our Rumble channel is growing by leaps and bounds. I appreciate everyone who's watching us on Rumble. We're in talks to get back on the TV, so that wherever you turn, you're going to see us delivering the message of freedom and prosperity and liberty and saving the republic and bringing you the truth, saving the republic and having fun doing it has always been and will continue to be the motto here at Mark Kaye Saves the Republic, and I'm going to be preaching that for the rest of my life. But it is important in these next 2 months that you know what's going on, and we've been kind of, we've had like a soft relaunch. And what's happened is we've gotten a lot of people who found our podcast either for the first time or they're back. And they've been leaving some really fantastic reviews, and I wanted to take a minute just to share some of them, because I want you to know that we see them. And B, we really do appreciate all the nice things that you guys say. R in New York, who listens on Apple Podcasts, says, heart, that's very nice, 5 stars, appreciate that. I'm so glad you didn't let getting fired change your style. No matter how many podcasts I've tried, I couldn't find any better than this one. I'm so excited and happy you're finally back. That is just so sweet. We appreciate. You won't find any better than this one, by the way. This is a unique blend of information, entertainment, enlightenment, inspiration that you're not going to find anywhere else. So you should probably stop looking. You found this one. You're good to go. It's on iTunes. It's on Spotify. We're on YouTube and Rumble and everywhere else. So the search is over. And of course, I would never let getting fired change my style. I'm the same. Again, it's like somebody wrote to me today and said, why did you get fired 6 months ago from the radio station? And I said, I was just too entertaining and intelligent for them. And they came to me and they said, you're too entertaining and intelligent. I go, what do you want me to do? They go, be boring and stupid. And I said, I refuse ever to be boring and stupid. And they said, well, then you got to go. And I said, fine. But anyway, I appreciate that. I appreciate that very much. Yippee, says Kaye in Tampa Bay. What's up, Kaye in Tampa Bay? That rhymes. I love it. Yippee, 5 stars. Mark, we're so happy you're back. My husband and I love you. We used to listen to you on the radio here in Florida. You are so talented and funny. You make us laugh, and that's saying something for an old married couple. Thanks so much. Keep up the great work. I always hear that from old married couples. They're like, oh, Mark, you brought the spark back into our relationship. And I'm like, whoa. I don't know. I just make fun of Joe Biden. I don't know if that's what that is. Look at this. Rush would be proud. That warms my heart. 5 stars from Grumpy Chick. For those of you who are students of the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies, meet the valedictorian. That's so sweet. Mark provides spot-on insight related to the current political environment mixed with a heaping helping of comic relief. If you really want to understand what is going on in this country, Mark is your guy. He definitely makes the bad news sound good. You guys, again, and I could just go on and on. There's so many of these. He's back. Love Mark Kaye, true patriot. Thank you. There's pages and pages. I'll read those on my own. But I'm not going to read anymore. But I appreciate everybody who leaves a message, leaves a reaction, leaves a 5-star review. If you ever find yourself listening to the podcast on iTunes, or if you find yourself listening to the podcast on Spotify, or if you're on YouTube right now or Facebook, by all means, please subscribe. Please make sure that you like the show. Please make sure that you share it, because sharing is caring, and that's how we grow our numbers. And if you ever enjoyed the radio show in the past, if you've been a live stream viewer for a long time, that's the best way you can say thank you, is just by liking, by sharing, and subscribing, so that you can be sure that you get all this great information every single day as we bring it to you. All right. Speaking of great information, let's get back to it, shall we? Kamala Harris is in Philadelphia. She's in Pennsylvania. She's all over the place. She's in Wisconsin. And some weird stuff is happening. She is saying weird things. She's hauling Joe Biden back out on stage.
We are the greatest manufacturing county in the world, state in the world.
I really miss that. I miss that guy so much. And I'm so glad he hasn't gotten any more coherent. If the worst thing that could happen is if you bring Joe Biden up on stage and he speaks eloquently and you can understand every single word, that would be the worst. That'd be the worst. I would just pack it in and call it a day. But Kamala Harris is out there doing some bizarre stuff. And one of the things that really, I don't blame her for the fake phone call, by the way. A lot of folks are making fun of Kamala Harris for the fake phone call. Did you see the fake phone call? Kamala Harris, she had a really bad weekend. She tried to pick a fight over these Gold Star families at Arlington Cemetery in the 3rd anniversary of the bombing at Abbey Gate in Afghanistan. Bad move. I don't know if it was her campaign manager. I don't know if it was some kind of uppity intern. I don't know if it was her. Maybe it was her. Maybe it was Doug Emhoff. Maybe it was stolen valor man himself, Tim Walz. I don't know whose idea it was, but it was a bad idea. And as a result, she was trying to avoid questions. What she did was she was getting off of the limo or getting out of the SUV, and she was walking up the stairs to Air Force 2. And she did this thing where she put her phone to her ear. It's like the press is there and she knows they're going to be yelling out questions. And she puts her phone, she waves, and she's like, oh yeah, no, I'm taking a very important phone call, so I can't talk to anybody. Yes, hello, it's me, Kamala Harris. No, I know there's no one there, but I want to pretend like I'm talking on the phone. That way the press won't bother me. And the problem with this is that she had earbuds in. so it was real. I mean, we all knew. Look, I've faked a number of phone calls myself. I used to do it every day. One of my first radio jobs in Florida, the studio was horribly placed. There was one door in and out of the actual radio station studio where we would broadcast. And directly across from the studio was the door to the boss's office. And every day I would walk out of the studio ready to go home because all my work was done. It was like 2:00. I was hungry. I was tired. I wanted to go. And I would walk out the door and my boss would see me walk out the door and he'd go, "Oh, hey, Mark, come here for a second." And I would go, "Oh." And I know that he saw me because again, they're right across from each other. So I'd have to go in and he'd tell me something totally pointless, totally stupid, some funny story from his life, or he was designing some new t-shirt and he wanted to get my opinion on it. I was like, look, if it doesn't have my name and face on it, I don't care what the t-shirt looks like. You want to put my name and face on the t-shirt, by all means. You want to do anything else? None of my business. You're the boss. You pick it. So after a while, what I would do is I would hold my phone to my ear, and every day when I walked out of the studio, I go, I'm on my way right now. I'm running out the door. And I'd walk by his office and he would realize, I was taking some kind of important emergency phone call and I couldn't talk to him. I couldn't come in and look at his stupid t-shirt designs or hear about, what he had for lunch the other day or brainstorm some other ridiculousness. So I don't blame Kamala Harris for that. She probably, should have taken her earbuds out of her ears. There's a photo. There's a real close-up photo of her, and she doesn't even have the cool, like the AirPods. She doesn't have the cool ones. She's got the wired ones that you stick in your ear, and there's a wire that attaches to your phone. It's very old school, but that's what she's listening to. And then she holds her phone up to her ear so she can avoid taking questions from them. Look, again, I don't fault her for that because I do the same thing. I don't have earbuds. I don't look like an idiot when I'm doing it. I actually know how to do it. But this Gold Star thing, it's a problem for her because the story goes that Donald Trump was invited last week to the 3rd anniversary. I believe it was August 23rd, 4th. I forget the date. But he was invited to Arlington National Cemetery in the morning at about 9:00. They laid a wreath in memory of the fallen, not just the fallen soldiers, not just the 13 Marines who lost their lives in Afghanistan at Abbey Gate, but also all the other Marines and servicemen and women who were injured, many of whom were there. Don't forget, a lot of Afghans were also killed in that bombing by the ISIS-K bomber. So it's a solemn moment. It's a solemn day. And Donald Trump was there and he was comforting the families and he was posing for photos with the families. And Joe Biden was not there. He was at the beach. Kamala Harris was not there. She was at home, which, by the way, is in the same city. It's not like she was in Washington, D.C. Arlington National Cemetery is, in Arlington, Virginia, but basically in Washington, D.C. It's a short drive. And I know that she's got the whole entourage, the cops and everything, so she could get there pretty quickly. She stayed at home. So she was at home. Joe Biden was at the beach. Donald Trump woke up, got his butt to Arlington Cemetery, stood with the families, stood with the soldiers, saluted, did what a president should do, did what everybody expects a president should do. He acted presidential. He acted like a commander-in-chief. And even though he wasn't commander-in-chief during the Afghanistan withdrawal, even though he wasn't commander-in-chief when that bomb blew up and those 13 American men and women lost their lives, even though he didn't have to call those families and admit his mistake and tell them what had happened and hear their sad stories, he did it anyway. In fact, our good buddy, Congressman Mike Walz from Florida's 6th District, he tells the story over and over again. And we should get him back on the show to share this. But Mike Walz tells a story about how he reached out to Donald Trump and said, look, these families are hurting. They came back. They stood on the tarmac while watching Joe Biden check his watch because he had some other place to be. Joe Biden was bored watching these flag-draped coffins walk by, so he kept checking his watch. They were insulted. All he did was talk about Bo. These families left demoralized, disheartened, angry at their president and his reprehensible behavior in the light of what had happened to their children, that Mike Walz said, look, we got to do something for him. And Donald Trump said, bring him up to New Jersey, bring him up to the golf course. And they went up to the golf course. He spent the whole day with him. He took him out to lunch. He took him out to dinner. They danced. They talked. He listened to their stories the entire day. Mike Walz was there. He was witness to the entire thing. And he said, these Gold Star families, these moms, Donald Trump threw on some Frank Sinatra, one of his favorites, and started dancing with the woman. And she said it was the first time that she'd smiled since she lost her child. And Joe Biden never danced with any of these people. He never invited them anywhere. He never listened to them. He talked to them. He didn't listen to them. He talked to them about his son, Bo, who died in a hospital in Virginia, but never listened to them talk about their children who died in a faraway land while trying to hastily evacuate based on direct orders given by Joseph Robinette Biden. Now, the interesting thing is that this is a story that you think Kamala Harris and her campaign would just avoid. You think they'd be like, man, Donald Trump really showed us what it's like to be a president. Donald Trump, he really made us look like we have egg on our face, which she does. But they didn't. They decided to go on the offensive, and they decided to attack Donald Trump and his visit to Arlington Cemetery. I still don't believe this. I've never run a major presidential campaign. I ran for president in 5th grade at my middle school, or at my 5th grade elementary school. I lost that election. I ran a couple of other times for various other positions, which I won, I'd like to point out. But I've never run a national presidential campaign. However, I would have to believe that if I saw what happened at Arlington Cemetery, and if I saw the praise that Donald Trump was getting for being there with these Gold Star families and for laying the wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier and for honoring the lives that were lost, and he wasn't even president, he's just a candidate. If I saw that, I would leave it alone. Not Kamala Harris's ragtag campaign, not Kamala Harris's campaign of Gen Zers, of Gen Z TikTokers who think they know what's best. They doubled down and they attacked Donald Trump on X with a very lengthy and inaccurate post. Kamala Harris, or whoever's running her account, wrote, "As vice president, I have had the privilege of visiting Arlington National Cemetery several times. It's a solemn place, a place where we come together to honor American heroes who have made the ultimate sacrifice in service of this nation." Now, let me pause right there. She says, or whoever wrote this for her, that it's a solemn place where we come together to honor American heroes who've made the ultimate sacrifice. But she didn't come. She didn't come together. There was no coming together. There was Donald Trump. There were the Gold Star families. There was no Kamala Harris. Oh, let me go come together with these people and honor the American heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice. Nobody came. Joe Biden didn't come. Kamala Harris didn't come. Susan Rice didn't come. Barack Obama didn't come. Who's the guy that runs, the defense? Lloyd Austin, he didn't come. Anthony Blinken, nobody was there. It was Donald Trump. It was Donald Trump and the Gold Star families and no other members of the Biden administration. Yet she says this is where we come together. It is not a place for politics. And yet, as we reported this week, Donald Trump's team chose to film a video there, resulting in an altercation with cemetery staff. Let me be clear. She even writes the way she speaks, doesn't she? She throws the "let me be clear" that she uses whenever she speaks. She throws it into her, or whoever writes this stuff, threw it into her tweet. "Let me be clear. The former president disrespected sacred ground, all for the sake of a political stunt. This is nothing new for Donald Trump. This is a man who has called our fallen service members suckers and losers and disparaged Medal of Honor recipients." None of that, of course, is true. And by repeating that lie, she's not making it true. She's making herself look like an idiot. I mean, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take a lot. It's not a far journey. I'm just saying. Let's go. A man who during a previous visit to the cemetery reportedly said of fallen service members, "I don't get it. What was in it for them?" This is a man who was unable to comprehend anything other than service to himself, and yada, yada, yada. And then at the very end, "I will always honor the service and sacrifice of all of America's fallen heroes who made the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of our beloved nation and our cherished freedoms. I mourn them and salute them, and I will never politicize them." She does mourn them and she does salute them, just at home. She does it. She's at home. She's still on COVID time. She's like, you know what? I'll just work from home. I'll just salute and mourn from home today. Donald Trump's going to the office. It's not even his office, but he's showing up. Donald Trump's doing the work. Donald Trump is honoring the fallen soldiers. Donald Trump is comforting their families. Donald Trump is, what is it she said? Donald Trump is mourning them and saluting them. Kamala Harris is at home. She's on Zoom. She didn't even Zoom in. She didn't even say, you know what, I'll just Zoom in for this ceremony. There was no Kamala Harris at this ceremony. There was no Joe Biden at this ceremony. And she now has the audacity, her campaign has the audacity to try to make this into a bad thing for Donald Trump. Donald Trump shows up for the family, shows up for America, shows up for the men and women who are still serving, shows up for the people who are still in Afghanistan. Donald Trump shows up, Kamala Harris does not. And then she goes on Twitter and tries to attack him. You know who wasn't having that? Tom Cotton from Arkansas. Tom Cotton gets on there and he's like, look, this is a problem.
Is it ever appropriate to make campaign content at military grave sites?
He didn't take campaign photos there. These families, Gold Star families, whose children died because of Joe Biden and Kamala Harris's incompetence, invited him to the cemetery. And they asked him to take those photos because, as they told me yesterday, when I spoke to Kelly Barnett and Darren Hoover, the parents of Taylor Hoover, who has Arkansas ties, they don't get to go to the beach on Labor Day. They don't get to have barbecues. This is their one chance to have a memory of their children, to commemorate their service and to honor their sacrifice. They wanted President Trump there. They wanted to take those photos. You know who the families also invited? Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Where were they? Joe Biden was sitting at a beach. Kamala Harris was sitting at her mansion in Washington, D.C. She was 4 miles away, 10 minutes. She could have gone to the cemetery and honored the sacrifice of those young men and women.
Yeah, that's what I just said. That's Tom Cotton. We're like this. Tom Cotton says she was 4 miles away. She was in Washington, D.C. She wasn't campaigning. She could have made it 10 minutes. She could have put on her nice black pantsuit. She could have gotten in the car. She could have brought, her wife, Doug Emhoff. They could have stood by the graves. They could have honored the families. They could have had a moment. They could have shown that while Joe Biden's off at the beach, at least the vice president cares about the mistakes that were made. But she wasn't. She stayed at home at the Naval Observatory, which again was just a few miles away.
She hasn't. She never has spoken to them or taken a meeting with them.
Well, they did meet with them during the dignified transfer. They were with them at the dignified transfer.
Her and Joe Biden's incompetence that those 13 Americans were killed in Afghanistan.
By the way, how that new Meet the Press woman, I mean, she can't handle. Well, she just can't handle. Well, she just can't handle, period. I guess would be the best way to say it. Tom Cotton's 100% right. You cannot come up here and disrespect these people by not showing up and then try to accuse Donald Trump of politicizing a moment when he showed up. And it's not just Tom Cotton, it's the Gold Star families. Christy Shamblin, who's one of the Gold Star moms, she was on CNN, and she went on CNN to debunk this claim that Donald Trump came out there by himself, shoved people around, shot some campaign footage, and then left. And she also reiterated or solidified the claim that Kamala Harris was indeed invited and was a no-show.
We invited both President Trump and the Biden-Harris administration, and we didn't hear back from the White House. We were happy to welcome President Trump to lay wreaths with all three of our families and some of our wounded from that day. And when he came to Section 60, it was at our request to spend time with our loved ones. There was not a press presence there. We privately took pictures among ourselves. And it was, a more celebratory feeling for that day because, we want to celebrate our loved ones. And it's very hard to find ways to do that at a cemetery. But they were very respectful. We didn't see any altercation. And really, we just want our loved ones to be honored and remembered in a positive way.
Kamala Harris wants to politicize it because she wasn't there. She could have just shown up. You just show up and it all goes away. You just show up, you meet the families, you hug them, you take some photos, you lay a wreath on the tomb of the unknown soldier, and that's it. Instead, you stay at home and write an angry tweet accusing Donald Trump of politicizing an event that you wouldn't even go to. It's a bizarre campaign strategy. I don't know that it's a winning strategy. Again, I'd have to talk to my good friend Kellyanne Conway. Maybe we'll get her on the show and we'll ask, because she ran a very successful campaign. Kellyanne Conway, the first female to successfully run a winning campaign, the first female campaign manager to get a president elected, president of the United States. That was Donald Trump in 2016. I'm going to reach out to Fox News. I'm going to try to get Kellyanne Conway on the show. Hopefully she's not mad that I stole her newspaper and read it in the bathroom, or that I took a photo of her in Milwaukee and almost got beat up by 3 of her big Fox News security guards. Hopefully none of that. Hopefully that's all water under the proverbial bridge. But that's it's a weird campaign. The whole campaign is weird. I know they like to say that Republicans are weird, but I'm going to be honest with you. Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, their campaign is just weird.
Well, it's just plain weird.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. It's just plain weird. Maybe that's what she was talking about. Maybe she's describing her own campaign.
Well, it's just plain weird.
Because things are getting bizarre. Tim Walz himself did not go to the Gold Star family ceremony at Arlington Cemetery. Again, he's still got some, I don't blame him. He's got some stolen valor questions that he's still dealing with. But he did go to the state fair in Minnesota. And while he was there, he was asked questions about not the Gold Star families, but another tragedy that happened over the weekend. The 6 hostages from Hamas. They were abducted at the music festival on October the 7th, and they were killed this past weekend, executed, a bullet in the head. They were recorded saying their final goodbyes to their families, their last messages. Then they were shot point blank, and their bodies were recovered by the Israeli Defense Force earlier this weekend. Just minutes too late, they said. They got there minutes after they were executed, and as a result, there are 6 dead hostages instead of a ceasefire agreement, which has the release of these hostages so that they can be returned to their family. And it's not gonna end well for Hamas. I'll tell you that. Benjamin Netanyahu is not very happy. The people of Israel are not happy. Jews in the United States of America are not happy. Jewish Democrat voters and donors in the United States are not happy. And when they're not happy, Kamala Harris and Joe Biden aren't happy. I imagine the pro-Palestinian people aren't going to be. No one's really happy in the Democrat Party. I don't know why they keep talking about all this joy. There's no joy. There's no joy in Mudville. The mighty Kamala has struck out. And Tim Walz isn't doing any better. Tim Walz was at the Minnesota State Fair eating, because that's what he does best. He was eating a lot. Man, he loved his food. While there were hostages being executed and Gold Star families mourning and a controversy brewing and other important things to be had, you know what Tim Walz was doing? Eating pork chops on a stick.
All right, Minnesota, breakfast of champions, pork chop on a stick.
By the way, I'm sorry, for breakfast. I forgot to mention that. He's eating pork chop on a stick for breakfast.
All right, Minnesota, breakfast of champions, pork chop on a stick. I've traveled to a lot of state fairs. While Iowa has a nice one, it does not compare with Minnesota. And the pork chops here, the best.
I'm having 2.
Oh, Gwen's having 2. Tim Walz is having a pork chop on a stick at the Minnesota State Fair. He's insulting the Iowa State Fair, so they just lost Iowa. Not like they were ever going to win anyway. And then Gwen's like, look, I'm double fisting.
I'm having 2.
Yeah, she's having 2. Look, Gwen's got pork in each hand.
I'm having 2.
I mean, it's just, this is what they think is going to win them. So what they think. But anyway, he gets a question about the hostages from a reporter. And you would think that if he really were serious about campaigning, if he really were a surrogate for the campaign, if he really wanted to, win this election, he would have some kind of answer prepared. He just took a lick of his ice cream and he walked away.
What's your reaction to the 6 hostages being found in Gaza?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. That's it. The question was, what's your reaction to the 6 hostages found in Gaza? She didn't even found, killed is what they were, murdered, executed. What's your reaction to that? Thanks, everybody.
What's your reaction to the 6 hostages being found in Gaza?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. I got ice cream. I just had 2 pork chops and I got to finish this ice cream. And thanks, everybody. You know who would have had an answer? Donald Trump would have had an answer. Donald Trump has an answer. Donald Trump says, I would get a ceasefire done. I would get those hostages released. I would end the war in 24 hours. That war never would have started had I been your president. And he's probably 100% right. There's some weird stuff going on in the campaign. There's weird stuff going on with Kamala Harris. There's weird stuff going on with Tim Walz. Oh, or Tom Walz, as Tony Evers Tony Evers, governor of Wisconsin, was introducing Tim Walz, had no idea who he was, called him Tom like a bunch of times.
Those are the exact Midwestern values, qualities, and work ethic that will make Tom a great vice president.
He corrected himself, not for saying the wrong name, for saying they will make Tom a great vice president. Isn't that Tom? Who's Tom? Who is Tony Evers? Doesn't he? If you are the governor of a bordering state and you don't even know your candidate's first name, I mean, really, does anybody know who this guy is? Tom.
Those are the exact Midwestern values, qualities, and work ethic that will make Tom a great vice president.
Yeah, okay. Tom Walz for vice president of the United States. Listen, before we get to the weird stuff, and I mean weird stuff that's happening in Philadelphia, before I tell everybody why you should pray for prayers for Pennsylvania, because as the epicenter of this election, as the deciding vote, if you will, in this election, as the swingiest of swing states in this election, it sounded weirder than I meant it to. I didn't mean. You know what I mean? They are bearing the brunt of all the ridiculousness, and we'll get to that here in just a minute. But first, if you're watching on any of our live streams, perhaps you're watching on YouTube or Rumble, perhaps you're tuned into us on X or even Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook, which apparently gives into pressure from presidential administrations to censor their users. If you're watching us on Getter, I don't even know, maybe we're being pirated on some other platform that I don't even know about. Whatever. If you're watching and you're like, Mark Kaye, that is a very comfortable and snazzy looking sweatshirt you're wearing with your name, your Mark Kaye Saves the Republic logo, and your big, beautiful, bald face on it, where can I get one of those? The answer is you can get one at themarkkaysshop.com. But that's not all. You can get a myriad of other items at themarkkaysshop.com. For example, we have our Brighter Future collection of hoodies and t-shirts and caprins and all kinds of things. And this is all from an iconic quote that Donald Trump uttered at the RNC. I was standing there. That was Thursday night at the RNC. It was 90 minutes into a 93-minute speech. And Donald Trump said this.
America's future will be bigger, better, bolder, brighter, happier, stronger, freer, greater, and more united than ever before.
Sorry, I cut that off early. And it's true. It's a great quote, and it's 100% accurate. And so we put it on one of the most popular apparel lines we've ever come up with in our merchandise store at markkaysshop.com. markkaysshop.com, the ever popular MAGA King line, and of course our brand new line of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic gear is also available. You've got zip-up hoodies, tank tops, because we have a lot of folks who work out and they want to show their, I'm not one of them, but they want to show their guns, and we, if you've got guns, we want you to be able to proudly display them. Official Catriot gear for all of the Catriots far and wide. From sea to shining sea, you can get Catriot t-shirts and hoodies and whatnot, and our brand new Mark Kaye signature line, which
America's future.
Oh, sorry, Donald. You may be admiring my Mark Kaye signature hat, which is the white signature rope cap. It's navy with white signature rope and the Mark Kaye logo, signature logo, which is, I get a lot of compliments on this hat. All my kids have tried to steal it. A lot of my neighbors have been like, hey, where can I get one of those? Every time I post about it, we sell a bunch of them. If you're interested in any of the Mark Kaye signature line, there's a ton of items as well at markkaysshop.com. Now, something exciting, though, is that I had a Labor Day sale, and I told everybody on Friday, I go, look, if you use code FRACKING, coupon code FRACKING, and I put it right there at the top of the website, for Labor Day, we'll give you 15% off of your entire order, like everything. So if you load up your cart with a couple t-shirts and a hoodie, maybe a mug, maybe you throw in a decal for good measure, whatever it is, load up that cart and you use coupon code FRACKING, you get 15% off. And I said, it's going to be good up until showtime on Tuesday. And then I totally forgot. So it's still there. so like, I guess one more day for the Labor Day sale, 15% off all day today. Today's the day to do your Christmas shopping or your Hanukkah shopping or whatever, Halloween, whatever you're shopping for. Today's the day to do it. If you got an anniversary coming up, get her a Mark Kaye signature rope cap. She's gonna really love it. All right, let's get back to the coupon code FRACKING, spelled just the way it sounds, for 15% off. let's get back to this weird stuff going on in Pennsylvania, shall we? Just weird. Just the weirdest stuff ever. First up, Gwen Walz is eating 2 pork chops.
I'm having 2.
I'm just kidding. That's in Minnesota. No, but there's weird stuff going on. First of all, Kamala Harris has to win the state of Pennsylvania. She has to win the state of Pennsylvania. And so she's in the state of Pennsylvania and she's doing whatever she can. She's out there campaigning. She's out there talking to voters. She's out there wooing the union vote. And in order to woo the union vote, she's decided she's going to break into one of her signature accents when she talks to the people in Pittsburgh.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
Okay, now I know what you're thinking. What? Better thank a union member? I think it was Benny Johnson said, when did she turn into Foghorn Leghorn?
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
I said, what are you, boy? A chicken hawk? It's a very, kudos to that. It's exactly what I was thinking about was Foghorn Leghorn. And and this thing went viral. Everybody in the crowd was probably like, what is she talking about? Why is she talking that way? This clip went on Twitter or on X and everyone was like, whoa, what is happening to Kamala Harris? Why does she do that? Why does she think that that's going to, because again, this woman is Indian and African-American, and I guess that's it. And now all of a sudden she's this bizarre amalgam of, I don't even know if anyone can identify this accent. Leave a comment or email me or DM me, or if you're listening to the podcast, I don't know, just give me a buzz. What is this accent she's trying to portray?
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
And then there's always that upward, that the sick leave, it always just trills out very kind of, it's like a weak voice. She never finishes on like a solid note. Like, you better thank a union member for sick leave. That's what you should end on I'm a professional orator, so I know these things. You never want to kind of filter off like sick leave. It doesn't really have that emphasis. Well, somebody on her campaign, probably not the same person who picked a fight with Donald Trump over the Arlington cemetery post, somebody in her campaign decided that was a bad idea. That accent was not the accent that you should be using. That you should probably, if you want to get your point across and not get totally trolled and ratioed online, then you probably just want to talk like a normal person, or as normal a person as you can. If you can't talk normally, just do your best. And 5 hours later, she was giving the same speech, because she only has one, to a different audience in a different city. And listen to this.
Thank unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time.
Okay, so that was Pittsburgh. I think the first one was somewhere, I want to say then Wisconsin. So this is the before.
You better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. You better thank a union member for vacation time.
And then this was just hours later.
Thank unions for sick leave. Thank unions for paid family leave. Thank unions for your vacation time.
Okay, so a delivery was off. She was testing out a new dialect. she had a new character. Maybe it was, there's so many voices going on in her head. I guess one of them, like the wrong one, slipped out. So anyway, so she got it fixed. She got it remedied. Her campaign, they got it back under control. And apparently moving forward, she's going to talk the way that she normally talks. But that wasn't it. She also thought it would be a good idea to bring out Joe Biden. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why? Why would you bring out Joe Biden? Well, it's Pennsylvania, and Joe Biden is from Pennsylvania when he's not from Delaware. Joe Biden's from Scranton, PA, when he's not from Wilmington, Delaware. It's one or the other. He was born in Scranton, but then he's from Delaware. Oh, also he's Puerto Rican. Let's not forget that. And Joe Bidenopoulos, who's of Greek heritage, not a joke. Again, these people have so many different identities. They can pander to any crowd at all. You just lay it out there and say, who are we talking to today? Rastafarians? No problem, man. I was raised by Rastafarians. Everything's Irie. That's exactly what would happen if it was like a reggae fest. They would come, Joe Biden would be like, not a joke. Not a joke. I was born with dreadlocks and weed and a big old joint in my mouth. Anyway, but that's what they do. They pander to all these different places. So she's in Philadelphia, or she's in Pennsylvania rather, and she's in trouble. Pennsylvania is not going well for her. Donald Trump is winning Pennsylvania. Donald Trump, despite what the polls tell you, is winning this election. He's winning the swing states. He's winning where he needs to. He's winning in North Carolina. He's winning in Georgia. He's going to win Arizona, probably Nevada, and he'll win Pennsylvania, which will give him the election. He's not pulling out of New Hampshire, even though I've seen multiple reports lying and saying Donald Trump cedes New Hampshire to Kamala Harris and removes his campaign staff. Not at all happening. And Kamala Harris on the other side, on the flip side of this, she's panicking. And Kamala Harris, get this. In fact, let me see if I can pull up the article real quick. Kamala Harris and her campaign are not only campaigning in battleground states, but Kamala Harris now has to campaign in blue states. Kamala Harris, get this, states that they thought Kamala Harris had wrapped up, she now has to go and campaign in. And one of them is Minnesota. Minnesota, where her running mate, Tom Walz, hails from.
Those are the exact Midwestern values, qualities, and work ethic that will make Tom a great vice president.
Yeah, so she picks Tom Walz from Minnesota, and she thinks Tom's going to deliver Minnesota. And after she picked Tom Walz, and after the convention, they start losing Minnesota. They start losing support in Minnesota. They're down to a +5 percentage, down from a +10 percentage. That should tell you something about Tom Walz. Don't even get me started on what his brother has to say. We'll get to that. We'll get to that in just a minute. But she picks a governor that's supposed to deliver her Minnesota and deliver her the election, and she's losing ground. She's now got to send Tom back there to campaign, to beg his people to vote for him and her for president. She also has to go to New Hampshire. New Hampshire, which everyone was claiming Donald Trump's giving up to Kamala Harris. Donald Trump can't win in New Hampshire, yet Kamala Harris is scheduling an event there. New Hampshire, with 4 electoral votes, becomes very important in a very slim race. I told you there is a scenario that I've built out many times, and I'll build it out for you again in just a minute. There's a scenario where New Hampshire could win. Forget Pennsylvania. It could be New Hampshire could decide. In fact, here, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up here real quick. Let me reset the map. Let me pull it up here and make sure everyone can see who's watching online. Here we go. Here's the map. 270, friendly reminder, is what it takes to win. If Donald Trump wins North Carolina, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada, and New Hampshire, he has 272. That means he could lose Pennsylvania, which he won't. He could lose Michigan, which he won't. He could lose Wisconsin, which he won't. Donald Trump could run the table. Kamala Harris could run the table on the Rust Belt. And if Donald Trump wins New Hampshire, he wins the election. New Hampshire is a very important state. It's a state that everyone thinks is blue, but apparently, according to internal polling from the Kamala Harris campaign, is not as blue as they would like, because they're scheduling events there. Do you know what it means when you have to take time away from the battleground states to go and solidify your lead in states that you thought were a given? Virginia will be getting a visit from Doug Emhoff, first whatever he is. Doug Emhoff's going to be going to Virginia for a campaign event because Virginia's slipping away. Glenn Youngkin, the very popular Republican governor there, is supporting Donald Trump. Donald Trump set to rally there. Virginia, sick and tired, hit really hard. A lot of rich people, yes. A lot of Washington elitists, yes, live in Northern Virginia. But but everybody's being hit by Bidenomics. Everybody wants a change. The Pentagon is located in Virginia. Do you really think that all of those servicemen and women that live and work around the Pentagon in Virginia, the largest office building in the world, do you think they really want another 4 years under the ridiculous command of somebody like Kamala Harris, who can't even withdraw troops from Afghanistan, who can't even follow a plan to limit the damage, and then doesn't even show up at their ceremony 3 years later at the request of the Gold Star families? That's who they want? No. they all have votes. And apparently in Virginia, more and more people are voting for Donald Trump. So Kamala Harris has to send her husband there. Again, it's only a 4-minute drive, but he's got to go. So these are states they thought they'd won. Virginia, New Hampshire, Minnesota. Solidly blue states that are not so solid anymore. And when she's not in Pennsylvania or Wisconsin or Michigan or Nevada or Arizona or Georgia, then that's a problem, because those are all states that Donald Trump can go to and he can campaign in. So she's got her surrogates running all over. But then she does something else kind of quizzical and bizarre. In Pennsylvania, a state that she has to win, she brings out Joe Biden and his weird, bizarre, bipolar temper.
You can no longer be the manufacturing capital of the world. Where the hell is that written? We are the greatest manufacturing county in the world, state in the world, city in the world.
I don't think he ever got it right. He tried 3 times. He said, "We are." Let me play. I'm going to play it again because I love it.
We are the greatest manufacturing county in the world, state in the world, city in the world.
City, county, state, and I'm pretty sure he just said thing. We are the greatest manufacturing city in the world, county in the world, state in the world, thing in the world. You know the thing. That's the fun fact. He's currently in charge, by the way. He's still the commander in chief. He's still the guy with the nuclear codes. Joe Biden is still the president of the United States, and he doesn't even know that we live in a country. He thinks we live in a county, city, state thing. The greatest manufacturing county, city, state thing in the world, by the way.
We are the greatest manufacturing county in the world, state in the world, city in the world.
I never want him to go away. But then that's not even the worst part. He comes out and he starts telling this really bizarre story. He tells this really bizarre story about the Molly Maguires. And I don't want to get into it because he's going to tell the whole thing, but it has a bizarre twist at the end.
I remember when my great-grandfather was only the second Catholic elected statewide to the state Senate here in Pennsylvania. And I remember they talked about when they're running against him in 1906, they said, guess what? They said, he's a Molly Maguire. You know what a Molly Maguire was? Well, those of you who don't, a Molly Maguire.
Okay, now I wish everyone just said, yeah, we know what a Molly Maguire is. That way we wouldn't have to listen to the story. Also, I don't know if anyone had fact-checked this story, like his uncle who was eaten by cannibals, but here's Joe Biden explaining exactly what a Molly Maguire was.
Back in the old days, when we Irish and the Catholics came, and then the Poles and others that were Catholic, when they came to the United States of America in the beginning of the 1840s, and late 1840s, they made their way down into Pennsylvania. A lot of them, and there's a tier in the coal mines. Those guys who got there last.
By the way, Kamala Harris looking very uncomfortable, shifting her feet, pursing her lips in the background, wondering where the hell this is going, wondering why the heck these words are coming out of his mouth, wondering how she can get Joe Biden, who's still technically her boss, away from that microphone ASAP, and powerless to do anything to stop it.
Up being the last people in the coal mines. But a lot of the English owned the coal mines. And what they did was they'd really beat the hell out of the mostly Catholic population that was in the mines. Not a joke. But there was a group that called the Molly Maguires. And the Molly Maguires, if they'd find out the foreman who was taking advantage of an individual, and they'd literally kill him. Not a joke.
Yeah, not a joke. That wasn't really not a joke. They'd kill him. Nobody laughed, and Joe Biden said, "No, that's not a joke. That actually happened." Here's my favorite part. This is the ending. This is where the twist comes in.
Bring his body up and put him on the doorstep of his family. Kind of crude, but I got to admit, they accused my great-grandfather of being a model where he wasn't. But we were so damn disappointed. No, that's a joke. That's a joke. Look.
That's a joke. That's a joke. My grandfather, they accused of being a murderous thug who killed foremen in the mines and dumped their bloody bodies on their family's front stoops. And he wasn't, and we were very disappointed. That's Joe Biden. That's Joe Biden's speech at Kamala. I really miss that guy. I want him to be out at every campaign. I think that if he campaigned more, her poll numbers might actually might actually start going up. But there's a couple weird, if you notice, not only did Joe Biden have to come out and campaign for Kamala Harris, not only are things going so badly that they called in Joe Biden. Do you know how bad your political campaign has to be if you're calling in Joe Biden to come and save it? Not only that, but look at this. They're literally wearing the same outfit. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden, they're twinning. They're twinning at this rally. She's wearing a blue pantsuit. He's wearing a blue pantsuit. Navy blue jacket, navy blue pants. Joe Biden, navy blue jacket, navy blue pants. Kamala Harris, light blue collared dress shirt. Joe Biden, also a light blue collared dress shirt. American flag pin affixed to the left lapel for both of them. They are wearing the exact same clothes. You don't think someone would have known? No ties, nothing around the neck, because again, they're talking to union workers. And when you talk to union workers, you don't wear ties. That's the whole political thing. When you're talking to union workers, when you're talking to blue collar workers, you don't wear a tie. Sometimes you even take off your jacket and you roll up your sleeves. They didn't do that here, but they're wearing the exact same outfit. Why? Because they're the exact same person, the exact same policies, the exact same ineptitude, the exact same inability to speak coherently. Joe Biden is hugging her. She's got and this is the other thing too. She's resting her head on his shoulder as if he's comforting her, which is a bizarre pose for a woman who is supposed to be, one of the strongest, most powerful women in the world. Somebody who's running to be the president of the United States. First, she has an interview with CNN. She's got to have big Tim Walz sitting next to her. Old pork chop Walz. Tom Walz is sitting right next to her the whole time in case she gets in trouble. He's there to bail her out. Now she's hugging on Biden, laying on his chest, and this old man is comforting her in front of this whole crowd. She doesn't look presidential at all. You never see Vladimir Putin resting his head on anybody's shoulder. You never see Kim Jong-un resting his head or Xi Jinping. They're never being comforted by anybody else, any other politician. It's a very bad look. It's very unpresidential, and it's just plain weird.
Well, it's just plain weird.
Yeah, I think so too. But not only were they twinning, not only was Joe Biden yelling, not only was he telling these weird stories about how disappointed he is that his grandfather wasn't a murderous thug, but something else happened weird in Philadelphia over the weekend, and it involved the Philadelphia Eagles, or the Eagles, as they say. In Philadelphia, it's the Eagles. E-A-G-L-E-S, Eagles is what they say, actually. But the Eagles football team, they're playing in Brazil. They're down in Brazil. They're going to be playing the Green Bay Packers this Friday. One of the first games I think the season begins on Thursday. And the Eagles are playing, and they have somebody, I guess, put up a billboard. Apparently it wasn't the Eagles, but at first glance, it caused some controversy because there was a billboard that went up. It was like a poster on a bus stop. What do you call it? Like the little room that you sit in. I guess you would call it a shelter, bus stop shelter. And there's advertising space on the outside. And somebody put up a poster of what appears to be Kamala Harris in an Eagles football helmet, holding a football. And there's the official Eagles logo along with the word Kamala in white. It's white and green. And it says official candidate of the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this is really bizarre for a couple of reasons, because number one, NFL teams don't have official candidates. They have official everything else. They've got official soft drinks, official beers, official grocery stores, official airplanes, official athletic provider, all those things. We here in Jacksonville, the Jaguars, get this, have an official, what do you call it? They have an official personal injury law firm. So if you're a Jaguar fan and you get injured in a car wreck or you slip and fall and you want to use the official personal injury attorney of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you can do that. But no NFL team that I know of has an official candidate for president. Apparently the Philadelphia Eagles did. And there's even a website that says, check out philadelphiaeagles.com/vote, which takes you to a website where there is voting information. So this was quizzical. And a lot of people were complaining about it. And a lot of people were asking the Eagles, hey, whoa, what's up with this sign? Why are you putting up these posters? Did you know about this? Well, the Eagles came out on X and they posted this. We are aware counterfeit political ads are being circulated and we are working with our advertising partner to have them removed. So somebody created fake Kamala Harris posters with a fake endorsement by the Philadelphia Eagles and posted them up at at least one that we know of bus stop, shelter in the city of Philadelphia. And everybody who walked by maybe thought that the EAGLES Eagles had officially endorsed KAMALA Kamala. And that's a problem. That's election interference. That's also all kinds of trademark infringement. The Eagles posted on X. There was a guy who, I think his name was Steve or something. Anyway, he was so mad, he printed off copies of that tweet and he went and he covered it up. Listen.
Inside this casing did several things. I'm a lifelong Philadelphia guy from South Philly. I love the Eagles, loyal to them to the end. I am a Republican, just to say that to you. But my concern here is that is not that someone is expressing an opinion, which everyone's entitled to do, but this person is lying to everyone that comes and uses this stop. Okay, that's what I'm very concerned about. The fact that they're spreading lies that the Philadelphia Eagles endorsed Kamala Harris as a candidate for president in the United States. We all know Philadelphia is the battleground for Pennsylvania. And these type of lies are the things that prevent honesty in the election process.
Yeah, so there are lies, which makes me 100% believe that the Democrats are behind it because, I mean, that's what they do. If it weren't for lies, Democrats they'd be quiet, which, kind of makes me wish there weren't any. But that's what he's up there. He's covering up these banners. He's saying, look, I'm a Republican. I'm an Eagles fan, but this is a lie. This is BS. And this is negatively affecting the election. The other reason that the Eagles would never pick Kamala Harris is because she's from San Francisco. And San Francisco almost kept the Philadelphia Eagles out of the Super Bowl a couple years back. And of course, they lost to the Kansas City Chiefs. Look, the San Francisco 49ers aren't going to support Kamala either. They've already lost enough for 1 year. Thank you very much. And finally, Philadelphia Eagles fans hate everybody. These people, they literally hate everybody. They don't like anyone. They would never endorse anybody for anything. They threw ice at Santa Claus and sent him to the hospital years ago. Years ago, during a Christmas game, or Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, whatever it was, they brought Santa Claus out on the field. There was snow and ice in the stadium, and these Eagle fans started throwing ice balls at Santa, and they had to evacuate him from the field. And I won't even tell you what they were saying. Robert Griffin III, RG3, as he used to be known, when he played for the Washington Redskins, and that's not racist. When he played for them, it was called the Washington Redskins. When he went there, they were interviewing him in Philadelphia, and they said, is your wife here to support you? He goes, oh, no. And they go, why not? He goes, I don't let my wife come to Philadelphia. He's like, it's not safe. It's not safe for the opposing quarterback's wife to go to Philadelphia to watch her husband play a game. You think these are the kind of people that are going to be supporting Kamala Harris for president? If anything, I would think they would support Donald Trump, but they're not going to support anybody. Also, Kamala Harris passed up Josh Shapiro, probably because he was Jewish, and I would imagine that the Philadelphia fans aren't too happy that she passed up one of their own to be on the ticket in place of Tom Porkchop Walz and his wife Gwen, who's double fisting pork.
I'm having two.
So it's weird stuff going on. And this kind of political propaganda, these kind of lies, these kind of bizarre rallies, these kind of weird dialects, all this stuff that Kamala Harris is doing and Joe Biden is doing and the Democrats are doing, all this kind of stuff, it is just ramping up. We have 2 months and all eyes are on Philadelphia. All eyes are on Pittsburgh. All eyes are on Harrisburg. All eyes are on Pennsylvania. It's winner take all in the state of Pennsylvania. Whoever wins Pennsylvania, we believe, will win Pennsylvania Avenue. And pray for those people in Pennsylvania because they're going to be bearing the brunt of this. Also, later this week, wait, is it the 3rd? Tomorrow, rather, Donald Trump will be in Philadelphia where he's going to be hosting a town hall. Sean Hannity and Donald Trump on Fox News will be doing a town hall. It was supposed to be a debate, but Kamala Harris didn't want a debate. She said, I'm not going to debate on Fox News. I'll debate on the 10th in Philadelphia. So the following week, the circus rolls right back into town at the National Constitution Center. There's going to be an actual debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. We believe they're still sketchy on the rules. Kamala's still trying to change things up a little bit. She doesn't like that she can't interrupt and use her I'm speaking line her trademark. That's the thing. Kamala Harris came out forward and said, look, I don't like these debate rules, and I may not be able to debate Donald Trump if we don't change these rules. These were rules that were agreed upon with Donald Trump and CNN and Joe Biden at the time. These were rules that were agreed upon between Donald Trump and ABC and Kamala Harris. And the rules include muted microphones, which means when Donald Trump speaks, Kamala Harris's microphone is muted. And vice versa, when Kamala Harris speaks, Donald Trump's microphone is muted. And Kamala Harris is pushing back against that because she only has one attack line. And it's contingent on her opponent interrupting her. And her one attack line is, I'm speaking.
If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking.
Okay, so that attack line only works if someone's interrupting you. And if someone's microphone is muted, they can't interrupt you. So if you yell out, I'm speaking, when no one else is saying anything, you don't look like a powerful woman who's being bullied by a man. You just look like a psychopath who's talking to the voices in her head. You know what? One thing I want, I'm speaking. Nobody said anything, lady. So really, and that's all it is. That's the only reason Kamala Harris is refusing to debate. That's the only reason why this debate may not happen, because Kamala Harris has one comeback. It's I'm speaking. Her whole debate performance is contingent on Donald Trump interrupting her so she can paint him out to look like a bully who is mansplaining and not giving her an opportunity to chit chat. So for that reason, she needs to have the microphones on the entire time. They're not going to be. But again, that debate is tentatively scheduled for September the 10th, which is next Tuesday. So it's going to be a busy week. And that's not even it. Then it's just going to be, Philadelphia, the TV ads, the radio ads, the internet ads, the bus stop propaganda, all the stuff and I really feel bad for you. I'll be there next week. So maybe we'll commiserate together. On September 10th, I'll be broadcasting this show live from Philadelphia. On September 11th, I'll also be live. And then what we're going to do is we're going to have a Katriot meet and greet. So if you're a Katriot and you're in the Philadelphia area next Wednesday, about 7 p.m., I'm going to find a nice bar. A couple people have given me some suggestions. I'm Googling them. I'm reaching out. I'm trying to find a nice place. And we're just going to get together. We're going to hang out. We're going to throw back some beers, maybe some grinders, or some hoagies or cheesesteaks or whatever other Philadelphia stuff. We'll eat whatever stereotypical Philadelphia stuff we can find, and we'll just hang out. We're going to have a little Katriot meet and greet, Katriot get together. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, or you can be by next Wednesday, keep that in mind, because I'd love to see you. I'd love to come. Last time we went, the bar, we were in Wisconsin right after the RNC, and we chose a bar that apparently was closed. I had no idea. They were open all week. Friday night, I go, great, we'll go party down on Friday night. And wouldn't you know it, the bar was closed, which was odd for a bar on a Friday night. But I'm going to make sure the bar's open. I'm going to call ahead, and we're going to have a little meet and greet next Wednesday. So a busy month, busy couple months for the folks in Philadelphia. If you're coming to the meet and greet, if you're coming to the get together, by all means, swing by the Mark Kaye shop and grab yourself, maybe a Katriot t-shirt. And that way, when you walk in the bar, you'll be easily identifiable as a Katriot. Red, blue. We got all sorts of fashion colors. You can get the hoodie. If you think it's going to be colder, you can get the tank top, whatever you want. MarkKayShop.com. And again, today, because I forgot to change it, you still get 15% off by using coupon code FRACKING. That is MarkKayShop.com. MarkKayShop.com. Listen, there's a lot going on. We've got these Venezuelan gangs that are taking over the entire country. We've got border problems and immigration problems. There were two instances, one in Aurora, Colorado, where this Venezuelan gang, I forget their name, TD something or other. They not TB12. That's totally different. That's Tom Brady's health care line. No, TD something or other. This Venezuelan gang apparently took over an apartment complex, and the governor denied it. And the mayor and everyone else were like, no, we're here. It's happening. They've got guns. They're knocking on doors. They're breaking into places. They've overrun the entire apartment complex. Apparently, that's not the only place. Now it's happening in Chicago. There was an apartment building in Chicago where Venezuelans, immigrants, came in with guns and motorcycles and started taking over the courtyard. Listen, we have the 911 call here.
Unit 10-3, I'm citywide person with a gun, 6124 South King Drive. Caller says 32 Venezuelans are trespassing the building, showing guns in the courtyard, and they have motorcycles in the courtyard as well. All they're filled. Nothing further, zone clear. Hey, I'm sorry. Are you headed over to the ShotSpotter or to the 6124 on King for the migrants?
On King Drive.
All right, 10-4. There's another available unit arrive at 310. We had multiple calls. Person with the gun, 6124 South King. Also came over to disturbance, large gathering. Said to be 32 Venezuelans trespassing in the building property, showing guns in the courtyard. They have motorcycles in the courtway, all stairwells filled.
Okay.
And nothing for
32 Venezuelans, approximately. It's a lot of Venezuelans. 32 Venezuelans taking over this apartment building with guns in the courtyard, stairwells filled, motorcycles in the courtyard, and that's in Chicago. Do you know how far away Chicago is from Venezuela? It's happening in Aurora, Colorado, Chicago, Illinois. All of this is happening because of the open border policy of the Biden-Harris administration. And the Hells Angels were making their way to Aurora, Colorado. I don't know whatever happened, but they were making their way to Aurora, Colorado to help out, to fight back against these gangs, because apparently the government isn't going to. That's a story that we're going to be following as we get closer and closer to the election. And of course, we don't know if Joe Biden's going to be back out on the trail anymore. We don't know if that was the last time you're going to see the guy ever. Apparently, this is weird too. The Secret Service doesn't allow Joe Biden to go out anymore into crowds. When he returned from Pennsylvania, it was late. He got off the helicopter and he was walking toward the White House, and one of these reporters caught him and they asked him a question, and they asked him what he thought of Pennsylvania. Listen to what he said about the Secret Service.
Yes, I'm not able to go out in the crowds anymore. The Secret Service doesn't let me.
No, why not?
Well, because it says it's too dangerous. No one gets to go out.
I don't get to go out in the crowds anymore. The Secret Service won't let me. It's too dangerous. No one gets to go out in the crowds anymore. That's a quiz. I have some thoughts on that, but I'll save that for tomorrow, seeing as how we've already pushed way more than an hour today. Listen, thank you guys so much for being here. Thanks to everybody who came back today. We are so excited to be going whole hog with a vengeance, full on into Election Day, and then well after, every single day, noon Eastern, 11 Central. We're not on the radio anymore, but we will be right here. We'll be live streaming on all of our various live streaming partners, and we will have a podcast for you up momentarily, so you can listen anytime on iTunes, on Spotify. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you tell those platforms, I like this content. I want more of this content. Make sure you're telling iTunes and Spotify and YouTube. Notify me when Mark Kaye posts a new episode of Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Notify me when there's new content from this particular person, because I love it. I like it. I love it. I want some more of it. And then, of course, the important thing to do there is share it with everyone else, because we want to grow our numbers. We want to grow the number of Catriots. We want to grow the number of patriots. We want to grow the number of Americans who are combative and conservative and know that it's imperative that if we do nothing else this year, we've got to get the Democrats out of office. We've got to get Donald Trump back into office. We've got to do whatever we can to save the Republic.